mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Driving Services Value Through Automation. Thank you everyone for joining today, and before we get started, I'd like to get a few housekeeping items out of the way. So number one, please send us in any questions you have through the question panel. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. The presentation itself will be about 40 minutes. If you have any technical problems, use the chat. I'll be here to answer any of your questions. If you can't hear anything, if you need any help, let me know. So my name is Ash Chaudhary. I'm a program manager here at Infotech. We're actually joined today by a mix of people across various job titles, from VPs of engineering to project managers to even some CEOs and presidents. So I'd like to start by first sharing the results from the entry poll. We asked each of you how you thought field service tools could improve your business. The overwhelming majority of you wanted to A, improve service quality, and B, optimize reporting. So without further ado, over to our speakers to share their thoughts. Here's Jason Crone, Field Service Automation Evangelist for Metrics, and Tim Hickernell, Lead Analyst from Infotech. Jason, over to you.
Hi, well, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. My name is Jason Crone. I'm the Director of Sales Engineering here at Metrics. And if you're not familiar with Metrics, we focus specifically on the service management arena. We provide an application to facilitate those types of requirements. We've been in business for about 30 years. Part of what I do on a day-to-day basis is to meet with clients to understand what their requirements are and see how we can fit our solution set into what it is the customer is trying to achieve. My background actually is in service management for aerospace and defense companies. So a lot of the pain points I can really sympathize with. Tim?
Thanks, Jason, and hello, everybody. My name is Tim Hickernell. I'm a lead research analyst at Infotech Research Group, and one of the areas that I cover is CRM and all aspects of CRM, including field service automation. So we do research every year on this topic, covering vendors as well as strategy and implementation advice as well. So what we're going to do is show you some highlights of some of our findings and recommendations at Infotech Research, and also kind of get some commentary from Jason from Metrics with some examples from their clients as well relating to these. And I just realized that the Metrics folks are calling in from Milwaukee, where they're located, and I'm from Chicago, so it'll be interesting to see how many of you discover our Northern Illinois, Southern Wisconsin accents, which I've been hearing in the last 10 minutes quite heavily. So hopefully you won't get too much of a chuckle out of that, but you can tell where we're from. So let's go to the agenda. We're going to cover briefly what the benefits of field service automation really are, what you really should be looking for to support a project, support upgrade of your software, as well as support any process improvement projects as well. Some of the key features we're going to go over, talking about scheduling, job scheduling, technician and resource scheduling, job preparation, knowledge management for your field techs in particular, customer self-service and why that's absolutely imperative today, meeting SLAs, contract management capabilities, and the value of advanced reporting and analytics, as well as some of the new exciting things that are making field service exciting again, like the pervasive mobile technologies and even some social and collaboration technologies. And then also cover a couple of points on implementation, looking at both technical challenges, but also remembering that this is about organizations and people as well, so there are some challenges in implementation there. On the right-hand side, I just pulled from our market evaluation. We always do a quick where the market came from and where it's going, but I want to really just point out on this that this is really not your father's field service, so to speak. Field service has been around for a long time, even automation technologies, obviously, but there's a lot of exciting things going on today that are really revitalizing opportunities with field service, and really organizations need to be realizing what a strong component of customer satisfaction field service really is, like any type of service, customer service, and then new things like wireless technologies, GPS, pervasive consumer technologies are really stirring up this field and providing more exciting opportunities to you. So let's briefly look over some of the benefits that you should be looking at with any particular field service project. The number one, as we saw in the survey that you all took as well, is improving service quality. Now, this is not a particular metric or a particular discrete driver, but it is impacted by multiple things, particularly increasing your first visit fix rates rather than having to do a repeat visit. Nothing hits customer satisfaction worse than having to tell the customer, I can't solve your problem, I have to come back, or we have to schedule a follow-up visit. And you all have been there and know that that is something that you've got to improve. Shorter appointment windows, people are busy, they take off vacation time, obviously, in many cases, especially in consumer repairs. So the shorter the appointment windows can be, the more appreciative the customers are. In improving SLA compliance, as more and more customers are very, very savvy about what contracts they sign, what warranties they sign, they know what they're supposed to get, and improving the ability to provide that to them, and that the tech in the field knows that. Cutting costs is always an imperative here. There's nothing worse than wasting your resources, wasting your customers' time because you don't have adequate scheduling that takes in all the variables. So field service automation software is doing a great job at workforce management and scheduling these days, taking in complex salary, overtime things, union rules, even governmental occupational safety and hazard rules that apply in many of your regulated industries as well. But also improving inventory management as well, making sure that you can do a better job at implementing more of a just-in-time inventory strategy so that you're not overstocking things because of inefficiencies and sending too many things out in the field that are not necessarily needed, sending what's really needed for specific jobs. These are all things that help you reduce your costs and reduce waste. Optimizing tracking and reporting is something that there's a very strong renewed focus on in field service software. Technicians now have the ability to maintain up-to-date work order in the field, see changes, not only see their stuff, see fellow technicians that might be in the field as well, to collaborate with them. So we're giving the dispatcher still is the central point of interaction, but now optimizing the tracking and reporting is allowing the field tech to be kind of almost their own dispatcher in many cases, which is really important to improve customer satisfaction as well as efficiency. And then finally, generating new sales opportunities. And this is one we found in our study at Infotech that was highly underutilized actually by most of our customers that we surveyed. And this is the ability to not only do things like just pay for service that's not prepaid or not covered under warranty in the field with point of sale in the field, but also to look at cross-sell and upsell opportunities. So there's never such a strong buy urge to buy warranties as when you're right there in the kitchen fixing the dishwasher that broke, and the technician says, I see you've got 5 more appliances here. I could add not only the dishwasher but all of them to a warranty contract so that you won't have to pay this type of fee again for when something breaks. That's a great buy impulse that's in the field at that time. But also just cross-selling or upselling services, cable companies, et cetera, that have the ability to allow the technician in the field to go ahead and provision for new services, and ask, well, would you like to try, we have a 1-month trial on this type of service, et cetera. So that was a highly underutilized one that we found in our survey, but a great area of opportunity there. So Jason, I know you've got some examples from Metrics clients in the types of different value drivers that they've experienced.
One customer that really comes to mind when we start looking at the items that Tim really pointed out was an organization that actually was in a business-to-consumer market where they were replacing windshields for automobiles. The issue that they were running into was when a technician actually is dispatched to the call, they had really a difficulty in understanding, is this the right person? Do they have the right skill sets? Do they have the right material to do the job? Do they have the availability? Are they in the right locale to really optimize where they're going? The other big challenge that they had was this organization pinged close to 14 different back office systems in order to extract information ranging from insurance to vehicle type information to how to do the job. And that was, as you can imagine, a very intensely manual process revolving reams and reams of paperwork. We took a look at it. We went down the path of, okay, what is it that you're really trying to accomplish? And the first pass was, well, we want to generate more revenue, and we want to reduce the first-time fix rates. And so, knowing that, we applied, again, our 30 years of experience and best business practices in implementing the system, tying those systems together to provide a unified view to not only the dispatchers, but also to the technicians that are out in the field, and giving them the information that they need at the point of performance. And really what we saw a lot of the value come into play, and this is what our customers telling us, is the information that was being collected from the mobile device. And it really transformed their organization from recording or working and then recording to recording while they're working. And all that information is captured at the point of performance while applying business rules and validation, so that when the job is actually signed off by the client, the organization can immediately either bill the insurance or collect credit card information. The other element of this was it really limited or improved their first-time fix rates, right? Because they knew when they went out there that they had the appropriate material to satisfy whatever the requirements of the job. It's a great success story, and they're currently very happy. Tim?
Yeah, that's a great example. Now, on the next slide, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this slide, but I put this here because whenever you're looking at any software market, so if you're starting to explore the field service automation market, you really need to start with a framework as to what's included in that market. And at Infotech, we came up with this framework that you're looking at because, like all markets, vendors will have their own frameworks, their own definition of what is or is not included in the definition of their market, in this case field service. So it's always good to establish your own framework up front so that you can level set what the various vendors are going to show you as their own frameworks for what is and what is not included in the field service framework. It's also important to note that not all vendors in this market offer everything that would be in an exhaustive framework as we have here. And even when they do, oftentimes they will sell differently, so your options to buy these are sometimes in packages of multiple components, sometimes a la carte component by component, sometimes everything all at once. So having a framework, at least a rough draft or on the back of the envelope idea in going into this as to what is included in field service or can be is really important. And these naturally also map to sections of an RFP or a tender that you might be preparing, especially by the features section, in addition to other sections of an RFP. So it's good to start with something like this just to make sure that you understand what the vendors are telling you and where it fits. Jason, how does Metrics look at this?
Well, that falls in line with what our strategy is. I think we're all familiar with traditional outbound field service. A call comes in, you dispatch somebody, he or she corrects the problem, and presumably reports what they've done in a timely fashion, right? And timely fashion is open for debate and interpretation. But where Metrics positions ourselves is we assume, okay, we do all that. We do the traditional field service, but we bring to the table something that we like to call integrated service management. Because what's often missed is all the other stuff that goes into how do you run a service management organization. And what I mean by that is the contracts that you currently have in place with your customers, the fiduciary relationships that you have, the service level agreements, also from the contractual point of view, what's billed, what's not billed, what's covered under the entitlement, and again, what's the SLA, but also getting into applying all the rules and regulations to appropriately bill the customer, as well as providing a 360-degree view of what's happening out in the field and what's coming back reported. Oh, go ahead.
Very good. So let's take a look at some more of those features within those areas. Now, what I'm going to show you in the next few slides is what we at Infotech have have seen as and recommended to our clients as being really the most important feature sets that you should be looking at. But like I say, we have an RFP template that goes into great depth, and you should adapt this to your own organization, your vertical industry, et cetera. But the first one is scheduling. And this isn't just technician and resource scheduling, but also the appointment scheduling and dispatch. So it's absolutely table stakes that you've got to have a system that is able to execute a complex rules engine to take into account all of the variables from skill sets of the different technicians relative to the job requirements, location, shift schedules, vacation schedules, overtime, union rules if you happen to be in a unionized company, such as maybe a union utility, organizational policies, or even, like I said, regulatory policies if you're in an industry where occupational safety rules apply to how long someone can work at a particular job or how long they can be behind the wheel if it's a highly mobile set of field service. So scheduling is absolutely table stakes, and you really need to have up front a good overview of what your requirements are, what your rules are by categories when you're considering different software, so that you really can make the vendor demonstrate that their rules engine can indeed do everything that you need it to do for your complex resource scheduling. But on the other side then is, of course, the appointment scheduling itself, being able to schedule as far in advance as possible, being able to meet the client's need as far in advance as possible, as well as being able to do dynamic updates to this. So it's imperative that the dispatcher have the ability to make changes, and the system can automatically, the rules engine can automatically recommend changes to the schedule in real time, notify the technicians of this in real time. But it's also important to look at the ability for technicians and customers to make changes to this as well. Customers may need to reschedule, and they won't tell you that maybe until the technician's already in the field. So they have to be able to impact schedule in real time, as well as the technician be able to see the schedule. And this also provides a self-service capability to technicians, which could be important in your company. So if technicians want to look at the schedule and propose swapping particular shifts as long as they're equally skilled for the job, self-service for the technicians is also part of the appointment scheduling table stakes that are here. Now, another category is those things that highly impact your ability to improve your first visit resolution, or as you know, in call center terminology, we call that your first call resolution, because this is a face-to-face, often a face-to-face interface with the customer, impacting customer satisfaction really as no other interaction can. And if you have to tell the customer, I'm sorry, I can't solve your problem, we're going to have to schedule a follow-up visit, that really kills your customer satisfaction right there. Even if it's not your fault, it doesn't matter. You're still really impacting that customer satisfaction. So there's a few things that are absolutely imperative to look for in not only your processes, but if you're shopping for software. And that's the inventory management is imperative. The techs have got to have what they need, at least what you can tell they're going to need or predict they're going to need with them automatically. They can't wait to diagnose what they're going to need until they're in the field. You've got to have a level of predictability here, and the field service automation system is not only good for just firing rules, but also advanced systems will be able to have analytics to do predictive analysis on what's required in the field as far as parts and inventory as well. But you've also got to have the ability to allow the technicians to have visibility into the other technicians and the rest of the schedule, because oftentimes they may not have the part they need for whatever reason, but they may find that another technician, a mile, 2 miles away, et cetera, might have that part. So there's still, by giving the power to the technician and not reserving that totally to the dispatcher, you can allow the technician to sometimes still enable that first visit resolution if they can look at their fellow technicians within a certain geographical area as kind of a pool of resources, if you will. Another area that really impacts the ability of the tech to be able to do the job on first visit is the knowledge management that you're providing. If you're still providing paper manuals, or even if you're providing images of paper manuals, you're probably behind the times, and you might be impacting your first visit resolution rates. Looking at knowledge management tools within modern field service applications is enabling the techs to have more of an interactive experience, be able to do searches that narrow down very quickly, or to have repair information and documents that are already provided based upon what the equipment is ahead of time, so that they don't have to become search experts in the field, as well as to even integrate modern and consumer technologies. We'll talk about that in a future slide here in a second. As far as being able to show someone else, either a peer or someone in engineering back at the headquarters, a picture of what they're seeing, a video of what they're seeing, which can often, again, prevent that first or prevent that second return visit, because you don't have to take something back to the shop. You can actually show a subject matter expert what it looks like or what you're seeing in the field. So don't skimp on knowledge management. There's a lot of new capabilities out there in this software. And then the last one is customer self-service and notifications. It's not, the reason for return visits is not always equipment. It's not always your scheduling or being behind in schedule. Often the customer is a variable in this as well. They expect the ability to be able to change things, to go through self-service, to not have to wait in a hold queue for 30 minutes. If they need to change the appointment, chances are that need prevents them from being able to waste their time for 30 minutes in a hold queue or go through an IVR selection 10 levels deep. So it's imperative also for this metric that you do have customer self-service and notifications. So notifications via text messaging are very, very popular. But increasingly in our research at Infotech, we also found customers were responding to, especially in business-to-consumer field service, customers were responding to social media like Twitter and Facebook, which isn't really hard to do. You're not really building anything new if you're looking at Facebook. You're just wrapping your traditional self-service interface in a Facebook page. But we did see an affinity amongst B2C field service in particular for some of the modern social media here too. Another category that's important then again is looking at accuracy and visibility of data. One of those on the outbound side, of course, is service contract management. Nothing frustrates customers more than to believe, at least know or believe, that they bought a certain level of service and the tech doesn't have any insight to that, or the tech has to wait and call in to get that information. So that's a customer service, customer satisfaction issue in itself, but also modern systems, by being able to integrate your SLAs from service contracts you may have in force, allow the tech to already have specific pricing, specific labor rates, part rates, discounts, etc., automatically at their exposure, so that they can calculate that by just simply pulling up the form. You don't want to make accountants out of your field techs. If your field techs have to look up everything and say, okay, your contract is service level 1A, B/3, and then they have to look up what discount does that mean, that frustrates the customer. It takes time. It wastes money. If you have complex service level agreements, get those integrated. Choose a system that integrates those well. And then analytics and reporting has taken a great improvements in the last few years, along with analytics in general, business intelligence improvements, et cetera. So this is not only about doing things better and smarter as you look at where your gaps in service may be, your bottlenecks may be, and how to improve your field service, but also feedback into, of course, product development as well, because we found in our Infotech research that one of the complaints was, I don't believe my reporting system and my analytics really give our product development people insight into defects, any type of things that are not necessarily defects, but just improvements for usage. This is a great treasure trove for product development people to analyze what the problems are that people are reporting, whether that's just to a regular call center or to the tech in the field as well. And then last but not least, mobile has been had a tremendous impact recently on field service. Now, that might sound counterintuitive. Well, isn't field service always about mobile? Yes, it has been. But a lot of advancements recently have really been enabled new opportunities. The first one is the ubiquity of mobile data access, as well as voice, whether you have business accounts or the consumer devices that most techs are carrying around. This has enabled a lot of your smaller organizations to get into more advanced field service capabilities that previously they couldn't get into or afford, because maybe they couldn't afford a proprietary Motorola radio network, for example, for dispatch. Now you can use off-the-shelf consumer technology with wireless data to effect field service, even for the smallest corporations. Consumer technology, again, is pervasive. We found in our survey that even if the company had no policy on the use of consumer devices in the field by repair techs, it was going on, and the repair techs report that they use their own devices quite frequently. So some of the great uses here, again, are the ability to take pictures, maybe even video, send that back in so that, again, you don't have to schedule a follow-up visit. If looking at a picture allows somebody, a subject matter expert back at headquarters, to quickly say, oh yes, I know the problem, you need to do this. But also the ability to find each other. So if your field service system doesn't already allow techs to see each other in the field, maybe contact each other, we did find that techs were already calling each other, texting each other, because they knew that maybe their colleague had dealt with that machine before and or that model and might have some ideas if the tech that was assigned to it was actually stumped. And the last one with that is social collaboration. We did not see as much social collaboration in the market yet, but we're predicting in the next couple of years you're going to see more formal social collaboration built in for the technicians so that they can follow each other, they can have activity streams possibly as well to follow what's going on right away in the field that day, especially if someone puts out a call for help, for example. So social is going to have a stronger impact in the next 2 years on collaboration peer-to-peer among and between technicians. And again, looking at this, the consumer opportunities here, with all of the pervasive consumer technology, don't waste good technology. For many of you, even an iPad, it might give you a great opportunity to have a richer experience in the field for both the customer and the tech. Also to capture signatures, which iPads are very good at, as well as any touch device now, without having to implement really expensive signature capture hardware, which is what you used to have to do to capture signatures in the field. For example, Adobe just released an update to their free reader, and you can capture signatures now on PDFs, and there are other competitors doing the same. But you can also just throw a ruggedized case around an iPad, and for many of you, that's good enough. Now, those of you who really require ruggedization and some sort of a device that's environmentally or safe for the environment, sand, water, etc. Sure, go ahead and still buy, the $3,000 to $4,000 motion computing device. They're still very, very good at that. But for many of you, you've got new opportunities for richer user interfaces by using off-the-shelf consumer practices here. You do need to have some policy, though. So if you are using consumer devices, like usual, you want to make sure that if there's risky data, there's proprietary or personal data, private data for the customer, you do want to have some policies to make sure that that's not being stored on personal devices. So don't do the policy first. Go out and look in the market first and see what your techs are doing. If your techs are using their own devices, use that as a listening point. Why are they doing that? They're telling you something about your own limitation to your own procedures and systems. Then look at incorporating more good practices for use of those devices, and that a policy has to accompany that as well, especially on the data and privacy issues. Now, on the integration side, CRM is just imperative, but also back office inventory management systems, as well as HR systems, if you do need to feed in more granular field tech capabilities and training, especially to know who's qualified. Oftentimes, you are not allowed by law to let, in some of your industries, to let a technician do a particular job unless they have been qualified or certified in a particular way, or a vendor, if you're not the equipment manufacturer, the vendor may require certification. So when you look at the big two, it's really HR and CRM, and jumping back in possibly to the parts and inventory here. You have to prepare for integration up front if you're looking at new software or even adding new modules to software. If you're looking at greenfield replacement, some of you will just be looking for augmentation, but if you are looking for greenfield replacement, data migration is going to be a huge task. As with any data-intensive system, you're going to have to look for cleaning the data up, maybe do a little bit of transformation on the data, deduplication, etc. So data migration has to be baked into your implementation project. But also don't forget knowledge management. You may be, for the first time, getting capabilities for knowledge management that you've never had before. You may have to rewrite and consider restructuring knowledge repair content and even implementing some better taxonomies around that if you get categorization and advanced taxonomy technology as part of your field service automation vendor as well. And then culture's another one not to overlook. You know, there are, every time you implement anything that has GPS in it, there's always that, is Big Brother watching me? Well, yeah, Big Brother is. Sometimes that's you know, a cultural issue worse in union shops than it is in white collar. But don't you know, attack that right away. Don't just ignore it, and try to let your technicians know how the tracking capability not only improves customer satisfaction but improves their lives, and again, even showing how they can collaborate with their peers in the field on the day of repair through these technologies as well, by knowing who's near, is something that's of a benefit to them. So don't just ignore it. Do kind of tackle that elephant in the corner right away, and let them know that this is for their benefit. It's not just something for the company to watch every move and see when they're at the donut shop instead of you know, in the field. But also, you know, looking at the organizational and cultural impact, you've got new technologies, the impact on the technician. You've got new technologies that can enable the technician to take a more active role in doing their job. With all automation technologies, it is very tempting to get so rigid about automation that you are actually tying the hands of your people and making them more like robots who cannot make decisions on their own. Again, the fact that this field technician, if they're doing face-to-face with the customer, may be impacting customer satisfaction more than any other interaction that you're going to have with the customer, you've got to let the technician have some leeway to make their own decisions in the field. And that may be on, again, finding parts that might be nearby from another technician, contacting other technicians for assistance, sending pictures, etc. You've got to have the technician feel still that they are enabled as more of a knowledge worker, not just a process-oriented worker, rather than taking the software automation so far that you really have just made a robot out of them. That shows, not only does that hurt the morale, that shows to the client, to the customer in the field, when somebody says, I'm sorry, I can't do that, I can't make that decision, I can't give you an answer. That really shows to the customer as well. So summary recommendations here, you know, develop a firm understanding of your features and functionality around these key areas first up front before you're looking at any process changes and or bringing in new technology or enhanced technology. Focus on the needs of the business around mobility and location-based services and consumer technology. These are really the new things that are making field service really sexy again and really interesting. You know, have a map of your desired integration and migration requirements. As with almost all enterprise applications, field service automation technology, half of the cost is going to be implementation, and integration and data migration are your two biggest components that exist in the implementation side of this. So don't overlook those cost buckets on your implementation, and communicate your change effectively. You know, address things that may be seen as intrusive to the technicians right up front, help them understand how this makes their life easier, and have them on board. When you're selecting new software, doing vendor demos, have the technicians on board. They're the ones doing the work, so as well as your dispatchers and shift people, have the technicians on board early on. Now I'm going to pass to Jason real quick. Any comments on those recommendations, Jason?
No, I think most of these things, because you know we collaborate so well, you know, we would totally concur with the recommendations, and this is what we're seeing from the field in our response, our responses to requests for proposals or just standard meetings and demonstrations. So yeah, I mean, most of these we totally concur with.
Okay, so I'm going to pass back to Jason to tell us a bit about metrics.
So, you know, obviously metrics works with Infotech, and you know, we try to keep a pulse on what's going on, you know, in the field service space, and you know, Infotech with their research and studies, you know, they provide us the things that we need to do or provide to the marketplace. And again, this is where we get again into this whole integrated service management piece. You know, we have traditional field service, but what else do we need to look at, ranging from contracts to SLAs to inventory to workforce optimization and especially now mobility. But right now, what we're also getting a lot of is, how do we take our core suite of products and put it out into the cloud? And that seems to be the next wave of field service automation. So we're preparing, and we have that whole solution set in place. But if you look at metrics, this is all we do. We look at service management. We've been in the service management space. We believe that we provide best-of-breed service applications to accommodate anything from traditional outbound service to reverse logistics and repair, because in many organizations, those are related. And then when you also look at different service management products, the point here is that it needs to be open. Tim had talked about integration to CRM. Well, I would say in 90-plus implementations that we do, 90% of the implementations that we do require some type of integration into a financial system, a CRM system, a knowledge-based system, a document management system. So, the system in itself has to be open. And when we constructed our application, we do have a system that does integrate into those back-end systems. And also, if you start looking at, the promise of a lot of ERP systems is that they can do everything for everyone within an enterprise. But the fact of the matter is, and this is what our customers are telling us, is that they're good financial systems. That's what they're designed for. But when you get into the sophistication of field service and how to manage resources and your customers, they kind of fall short a little bit. And so, we pick it up from where those type of products really have a deficiency. And again, any system that you decide on, if you are looking, it needs to be flexible enough where you can adapt your workflows and your unique configurations to the system, and that those changes can be carried forward as you upgrade the application, right? So it needs to be adaptable. And when you look at also metrics versus other applications, we scale from small medium business to the very large. On the low end, we work with a lot of smaller HVAC type organizations, and typically those companies are candidates for cloud computing versus an organization that might be multinational with thousands of users logging in simultaneously, dispatching resources all over the world. So, from the very small to the very large, and at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, right? What's your success rate for implementation, and what's the time to value for our customers? And we got 30 years of experience for a reason. And so with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox and turn this over to Ash.
Thank you. Just going to point everyone towards an online resource. If you want more resources related to mobility cloud field service, visit this website, fieldserviceinthecloud.com. Some things to check out. There's a great TCO calculator tool on there. There's a white paper on trends in field service. There's a couple of really good case studies, much more, so check it out. We're now moving on to the Q&A portion. So as I mentioned before, please send in your questions using the question pane. And we have our very first question right here. The potential of shifting to automated dispatching is strongly dependent on the quality input from upfront stakeholders. Example, technical back office or NOCs in the telecom industry. Bad input quality raises the entry barriers for automated dispatch. What is the experience and/or approach to integrate upfront quality requirements into the SSA solution? And Jason, Tim?
Well, I think this is Tim. From what we saw in our most recent research, is that requirements gathering was a critical point where we did see a lot of organizations, when they look at new software, we're really just looking at the way they do things today and not looking at it as an opportunity to go back out to the organization and get those types of input requirements, to realize that not only does technology change, but also your processes, your business, your competitive environment has changed as well. So I would say that we did see that in our research a bit, that you really have to look at requirements gathering for putting in a new system or upgrading a system from the ground up again. Don't just use as your input the way you've always done things, because that is one area that can, even the best rules engines, they only do as good as the input that they have and the accuracy of that input. Jason, do you have a opinion on that one?
And that's exactly where I was going to go too. Is it all gets down to what are your rules, what's your standard workflow, and how can the system best emulate what it is you intend on doing in the field? Because it's your processes that made your organization great, and we want to make sure that those processes can be emulated efficiently in the system. So it's all about the the workflow engines that are available and how tailorable are they to continue moving, or at least adding additional value that you may not be seeing today.
Great, thank you. Second question. What are the most common methods used today to provide field service engineers access to resources such as manuals, technical bulletins, diagrams, etc.? What new enabling technologies are on the horizon? Tim, we'll start with you.
Oh, well, that's a great question, and I cover knowledge management for CRM as well, so I'm quite passionate about customer service knowledge management in any fashion. The opportunities here are still separate what's happening in the back office from the field first. There's no technology, no just-in-time or near real-time technology that's a replacement for training. So you still have to have a really good training program, and that includes not only initial training, but ongoing training, updated training. Make sure that the techs who are preparing certain types of equipment, if it's not your equipment, you're not the manufacturer, that you're training them constantly on service information letters, for example, that you're getting from the OEM, so that they're constantly at least aware that there's been some sort of change. Then, of course, that has to be incorporated into the knowledge base in some fashion, and that's why having a great taxonomy, not only for training, but taxonomy for the knowledge base and repairs in general is imperative, so that you can classify everything and you can use that rules engine to predict what parts of the knowledge base might be relevant for pre-job, pre-shift briefings. And maybe the technician does need to have a talk with a supervisor or subject matter expert first, but also the ability to use categorization to predict what is going to be necessary in the field and have links inserted automatically with the ticket that take the technician right to the right stuff. Another thing that we're saying and that you might consider if you are a manufacturer of either equipment for other people to service, or you also manufacture what it is that you service, QR codes are starting to pop up on packaging in the electrical, mechanical, plumbing, in particular industry, HVAC, et cetera. And what QR codes can be used for is if you incorporate with your knowledge base a QR code for specific products and models, and that's also either on the work orders and or on packaging of parts, you can have the tech enabled with their own phone or one that you issue them with that camera, take a picture of that QR code and immediately go to the relevant support information with either whether it's your equipment or whether the parts are from another equipment manufacturer and the tech is being taken to their knowledge base. We are seeing that near real-time in the field capability to get at the information that's most important to that job using something like QR codes. But like I say, you can only do so much reactive in the field. You can't skip good old-fashioned training and job preparation before the shift begins. Jason, I don't know if you had you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of speak more to the technology. From Metric's side, we have integrated into a knowledge management system specifically to address this topic. But typically what happens is the document retrieval is happening behind a desk, versus getting that information down to the technician, where that document or whatever supplemental information that's available would certainly help the technician in solving the issue while they're standing in front of the piece of equipment. So from the interaction of the technician and the back office, we have included things like attached documents where, if there is a manual that was identified, by somebody in the back office, that could be propelled down to the handheld or a schematic or whatever the case might be. So, then the next question is, how does one view that? You're not really going to take advantage of looking at a schematic from a smartphone. So now you just got to find the right device to manage what information needs to be viewed.
And I just would add one other thing that I consistently see as an opportunity that is just not exploited, and that's the use of electronic drawings that have layers in them and/or 3D composites of equipment in the drawing as well. I still see flat images of repair manuals. If you are the one generating those manuals and you actually do have it sitting in AutoCAD somewhere, or if you can get the three-dimensional stuff from the original equipment manufacturer, that can add value for the more complex service situations. For example, complex HVAC in the field, so that the technician can see the parts and explode from the diagram themselves by interacting with, say, that PDF or drawing right on an iPad or a tablet PC or laptop. So, and they can also rotate with 3D. They can now rotate the equipment, because let's face it, when you get a drawing, what do you get? Top view, front view, side view. How many times is a piece of equipment actually installed in the field? Top view, front view, side view. So 3D can also allow a technician to rotate the equipment to actually have the perspective that they're looking at, as well as exploding parts. So that's a big opportunity that I see still out there. I don't see enough of the complex organizations with complex service needs. I don't see them really exploiting that as much as I think they could.
All right, and we'll go to a third question. Pretty simple one. What is a typical ROI for customers? Jason, we'll start with you this time.
A typical ROI for a customer. Geez, it depends. Is an appropriate answer? It's a variant on obviously the size of the organization and what it is that they're looking to accomplish. But on average, I think when we go down the path, a good rule of thumb, I think, is anywhere from 9 months to 12 months is kind of what we see from a break-even point.
Yeah, and I would add. Yeah, I would add to that. For those of you who are smaller organizations, maybe you have something that you built yourself that's about to break, and you don't have a lot of money. Having the cloud-based options is really improving your options. It's lowering the barriers to entry, not only cost, but time to market. So I think for smaller organizations, you actually have the ability now to take advantage of advanced field service capabilities and get value, and do that almost immediately. I mean, of course, you have training, you have organizational and procedural changes, but with cloud options, you don't have to install anything anymore, so you can hit the ground running a lot faster. So I think that for many of your organizations, SaaS is enabling you to experience ROI a lot faster than in the old, heavy, big iron on-premise installations.
All right, thank you, Tim, Jason. And that brings us to